Okay, one quick second, make sure we're on the site, and then I'll give you the go-ahead to go. Okay, we are good to go. All yours.
Good afternoon. This is ALCOSAN's Finance Committee meeting. Today is Thursday, October the 19th, 2023. We will begin with a roll call. Ms. Prater.
Good afternoon. Representative Emily Kincaid.
Here.
Councilman Paul Klein. He's here.
He says here.
Yeah, he's okay, good. Miss Sylvia Wilson.
Here.
Thank you.
And I apologize. I'm holding my phone and it's going to be awkward trying to be seen. So I'm turning off my video right now so we can go ahead and continue with the meeting. Just sorry, guys, but it's just a little easier for me. All right, thank you. We will begin with information items. We have 4. The need for a bond issue in 2024 to fund the Clean Water Plan and Capital Program, a potential refunding opportunity, selection of team of bond underwriters, and timing consideration. Ms. Williams?
Madam Chair, just so you know, you are still on camera. If you
Am I really?
prefer to be off camera, yes, swipe the other way this time. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, there you go. All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Seems like we were just together and talking about spending lots of money to do important things to ensure water quality in our region. To be able to do the things we previously talked about, which is ongoing implementation of the Clean Water Program in accordance with the modified consent decree, the heart of which is the Clean Water Plan, requires significant resource. The board has been incredibly supportive over the years, ensuring the necessary rate increases to be able to sustain the work that has been required, which has enabled us to keep an excellent credit rating, bond rating, which has afforded us an opportunity to borrow funds as cheaply as possible. It is time to talk about our next borrowing, which will be required next year. With that, I will turn it over to the Director of Finance, who is the next director chafing at the bit to talk. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Ms. Arletta. Thank you, board members, for being here with the Finance Committee. This is an amazing committee, and I appreciate your attendance very much, and I appreciate your patience with getting this meeting scheduled. It's not a standing committee, so sometimes it takes me a little bit to get everybody together on a call, but I do appreciate you spending your next half hour with me. This is a very important topic, as Ms. Arletta alluded to. We're going to be looking out into 2024 for our next bond issue. I have with me our financial advisor, Charlie Goodwin from BNY Mellon. He is going to be walking through those informational items in a short presentation for you. But before we get to Charlie, I did want to just talk a little bit about, why we're here is because we are, we went out for bonds back in 2022. We are spending those capitals. As you go through the board meetings and you're approving those expenditure items, those are coming out of the capital. A lot of those were capital items coming out of the capital funds. We have about, right now, we just did a capital draw that will go and get approved by the board hopefully next week. But after that is done, we have about 9 to 10 months worth of capital left to spend with the draw, with the funds that we have remaining from the bond series of 2022. So that being said, it's time to start talking about 2024 and where we go from here. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Charlie. He'll do a short presentation, and then at the conclusion of his presentation, we will take questions and then ask you for an action item to go forward. Charlie, I will share my screen if you want to take it away.
Thank you, Karen, and thank you to the members of the Finance Committee. I'm pleased to be here today to be able to present to you some ideas on the upcoming bond issue and the tasks we need to accomplish to make that happen. So the things that, as Karen and Arletta mentioned, we want to talk about will be the roughly the general size of the bond issue, the potential refinancing of the Series 2013 bonds, talk about how to select a group of underwriters to act as the intermediaries between ALCOSAN and investors for the bonds, and then talk a little bit about what the timing would be for both the selection of the underwriters, putting the bond issue together, and then finally getting the money that ALCOSAN needs for the Clean Water Plan. So with that, Karen, can I ask you to move forward a couple slides, please? Yeah, maybe one more if we could. Just wanted to mention, as Karen said, I'm the financial advisor to ALCOSAN. BNY Mellon has been the advisor to ALCOSAN since 2005, and my tenure with ALCOSAN goes all the way back to the 1997 bond issues, when at that time we were Mellon Financial, were one of the underwriters for that bond issue. So we've been involved and have a very good understanding of ALCOSAN's debt structure and how you've been, I think, very successful in your prior issuances. For this issuance, given the needs of the Clean Water Plan, especially with a lot of the work that's being done to get ready for the really big expenditures around tunnel boring, we'll be looking at a bond issue about $300 million, which will be close to one of the largest bond issues that ALCOSAN's ever done. As Karen said, we're going to need that money because you're probably going to run out of the Series 22 bond proceeds by, I would say, the middle part of next year. We'll talk about the 2013 bonds in a minute, but we think there's an opportunity to refinance those bonds and generate some savings from that refinancing for ALCOSAN. One thing I want to bring up is that, as Karen alluded to, ALCOSAN's typically issued every other year to fund two capital expenditures. However, given the need for probably bigger capital draws, we could foresee the fact you might be coming back into the bond market, say, every year going forward. For this bond issue, it's going to look a lot like the prior deals that ALCOSAN has done, long-term fixed rate financing. A lot of people might call those boring, plain vanilla bonds, but I think given all the other uncertainties around the Clean Water Plan and the costs associated with that, having a very predictable debt structure is beneficial to ALCOSAN. So we'll be looking at, pretty typically a long-term 30-year bond issue with annual principal payments and semi-annual interest. Maybe if we can jump ahead to the next slide, please, Karen. Just want to go through the existing debt. The big one to play up here is the first one, the 2013s. There are about 65 million of those bonds outstanding. They run out till 2044. As I said, we think there's a good chance to refinance those on a tax-exempt basis and save not a huge amount of money like we were able to do with some of the prior deals back in 2020, but still be able to generate about 2 to 3 million of savings for ALCOSAN, assuming that the current market continues to when we would do the future bond issue. And as we structure this new bond issue, we're going to take into account all the other prior bond issues so that we can hopefully create a smooth debt service burden that is manageable for the authority and not too onerous on the ratepayers. So with that, let's just, I wanted to give the Finance Committee a little bit of updates as to where the current bond market looks like. So with that, Karen, can we go forward a couple slides. Thank you. The bad news is that interest rates have been going up, as most people are aware of. And what we're trying to show in the chart on the right of this slide is that the red line is roughly where the benchmark interest rates were when ALCOSAN did its 2022 bond issue. And the blue line is the same benchmark in the current market. So rates have gone up between 0.5% and about 1% at various maturities between, say, 1 year and 30 years. So this is going to be a larger cost in terms of interest rate compared to many of the prior deals. I think some of the 2018 bonds, 2020 bonds, and 2022 bonds were some of the lowest interest rates that ALCOSAN ever got. I doubt very much we're going to see rates back at that level anytime in the future. But we do think that the higher interest rates are attracting an awful lot of investors. So we do foresee what we think will be a very strong reception for ALCOSAN's bonds going forward. As Arletta mentioned, ALCOSAN is in a very strong financial position due to the great work that the board has done over the last several years. I know it's difficult to have the rate increases every year, but those have really proven beneficial as we go to the market and talk to investors, and also is reflected in the very strong credit ratings that ALCOSAN has. If we go to the next slide, there is a little bit of good news coming forward. This is a little bit of a technical chart, but it is showing that starting probably about April of 2024, the market is expecting the Federal Reserve to start reducing interest rates. They think there's probably going to be 1 or 2 maybe additional rate hikes between, say, now and February of 2024. But starting, as I said, in April 2024, we think the Federal Reserve will start reducing interest rates, and potentially by June or July, when we'll be looking to do this bond issue, rates could be approximately 50 basis points or 0.5% lower than they are right now. So that, I think, should bode well for that next bond issue. And now if we could move on to the next slide. One of the crucial aspects of how we're going to get ALCOSAN the lowest interest rates possible in the market is by putting together a good team of financial firms to sell the bonds to investors. So one of the ways we want to do that is by sending out a request for proposals for bond underwriters. The last time ALCOSAN did that was in 2018. That process, I think, was able to identify some very strong firms that were involved in the 2018, 2020, and 2022 bond issues, and have provided great service to the authority on those deals. However, we've seen a lot of changes in the bond market and among many financial firms. So we think it's worthwhile, given the amount of the issuance that we're looking at here, that ALCOSAN might want to consider adding more firms. And probably the best way to do that is by this RFP process. In addition, the RFP can give ALCOSAN some interesting ideas on how potentially to structure that debt going forward, especially when we're looking at what could be annual issuances starting in 2024. BNY Mellon, since we're active in the bond market, we think there are about 30 firms that would be interested in responding to the RFP and being an underwriter for ALCOSAN, and those will be the firms that will receive the RFP. We might not get every firm to respond, but I would think we'd probably get 20, at least 20, if not 25 responses. From there, we'll review the proposals received along with ALCOSAN's management, and then summarize and analyze the responses to present to the Finance Committee and to the full board. What we're thinking is if the Finance Committee approves, that we'll distribute the RFP in January or February with responses due about a month later. I think it's worthwhile, given the complexity of the ALCOSAN debt structure, that giving firms a good solid month to review and respond is prudent and should get some high quality responses. We'd then be looking to select the team in March. And with that team in place, we'll start putting together all the documentation we need for the bond issues. And once we receive the audited financials for 2023, that will really be the final piece of the puzzle we'll need to then bring the bonds to the market, identify investors and determine the interest rates. And we're sort of anticipating that in June of 2024, that the funding will take place and ALCOSAN will receive the proceeds of the bonds for its future capital needs. So that's what we're suggesting to the Finance Committee in terms of the selection process. One thing I wanted to show on the next slide are some of the areas of questions that we'll ask of the firms that are interested in responding, trying to get a sense of how committed they are to the ALCOSAN service area, their expertise in sewer bond revenues, and how to structure sewer bonds, how they can sell bonds to institutional and retail investors, how well they know the PA market, because PA bonds tend to trade better than many other states' bond issues. Want to see if firms have interesting ideas and incorporate those into our future financing plans. We also will be looking to see if there are firms who are minority, women, or disabled veterans-owned firms and how they might be interested in working with the authority. Also, making sure all the firms have sufficient capitalization and their ability to support ALCOSAN's bond issues in an uneven market. So with that, I think those are the highlights to what we put together in the RFP. You know, the detailed questions will, we think, be able to provide a strong basis for ALCOSAN to select the firms to be part of the syndicates going forward. With that, I'll stop now. I'll be glad to answer any questions people may have.
All right, do we have any questions from our committee members?
I always feel like I should ask questions, but I always feel like you guys do such a good job of explaining it that I don't really have any.
Yes, I agree with you. And it's so well thought out. There's so many good points that they present to us. I think they've covered just about everything we could possibly ask. So that you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It's hard to come up with a question when they've covered so much that we might have thought of.
Well, thank you for that. I usually get the question as, you know, what are interest rates going to look like in 2024? And can I guarantee interest rates? And I always have to say my crystal ball is very cloudy right now. So
Exactly. No, it would be silly to ask you that question. There's no way of knowing what that would be. We are right. We can't predict the future at this point. Karen, do you have anything else to add? I mean, Charlie has given us a lot. Is there anything you have to add?
No, other than, you know, going out for an RFP for the underwriters is an important step to take as part of this next bond issue. We tend to use the same underwriting team or group, the syndicate, for probably about 3 or 4 bond issues, depending on how closely we go out into the market for new bonds. So it's something like we have not done since 2018. So that's why we're coming to you now in October. And then once this process hopefully is resolved in March, look for us to come back and ask to meet with you all again and present the results of that process to you.
Okay, thank you.
I think when you think about debt restructuring right now, I just kind of feel nostalgic for 2019. Oh, well.
Yeah, right.
We just have to soldier on.
Exactly. All right. I think, Ms. Williams, you don't have anything to add yourself?
No, ma'am.
Okay, all right, thank you. Then we'll just move right on into our action item. Of course, we have only one. And it is a motion to authorize the authority to engage in a request for proposal the proposal process for bond underwriters.
So,
And,
oh,
okay,
all right.
that's fine. Could I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. We will, this committee authorizes our authority to go forward with this request. All right. I don't know that we have any new business, but I'll ask you, Ms. Williams, is there any?
You are correct. We have no new business. Thank you, committee. We again appreciate the support.
And thank you all who helped put all this work together and get this meeting to move forward. Thank you all and have a great day, the rest of you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Meeting
So long,
is
everybody.
adjourned. Yep,
See you
we're
later.
adjourned.
Thank you.